Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Straight Talk about the Blended Family. Hi, I'm Doc D.
I'm Michelle.
And we are the Mangums. Listen, you know how we do it here. We're going to have a word of prayer, and then we're going to bring on this amazing team to be with us on this broadcast on this awesome Wednesday. Let's pray. Father, we thank you so much for your grace and your mercy. Bless this awesome episode. We have a tremendous couple that's coming on today, and we're super excited for them. Yes. Bless everything that's will be done as we give you glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. We want to thank God first and foremost for allowing us to have this platform. We want to thank Lionel Green and the WBGR staff here at the studio. We want to thank everybody for all of their support, sharing the show, watching the show. We really appreciate you guys, and we know that you are being blessed by the information that is given. Today's topic is going to be Blended Family Crusaders. Why, you ask? Because our special guests, Michael and Christina Fisher, they have a blended family like none other. And they are we're Team Mangum, they're Team Fisher, but they also have they're the Blended Family Crusaders. So we're excited that we have them on our show today. I'm going to read their bio. And once I read their bio, we're going to cut to a short commercial break and the Fishers will be with us. So Michael and Christina Fisher are a blended family with 9 kids. Yes, you heard me. I said it. 9 children, 7 girls, 2 boys, ranging from age 6 to 22. 4 years ago, when they fell in love, Michael and Christina knew they were going to need guidance if they were going to make their large family work. As they began looking for resources, what they found was mostly negative and focused on just the problems of blended families. Both professional coaches in their fields, Michael and Christina knew focusing on just the problems was only half of the equation. They began looking at blended families with a new angle, the advantage angle. The advantage of adding new talents, personalities, cultures, and beliefs, trials, and successes, and how this could empower their family in so many ways was the missing piece they were looking for. Blended Family Crusaders was then born to help move families forward by teaching them how to implement this advantage mindset while providing valuable resources to help with the problem which arise. They are the Blended Family Crusaders. They are located in Utah. And, we're so excited that they are going to be on our show sharing. We know with 9 children, they have some information for you.
They got some good stuff.
They have some navigational tools that's going to help you. And the wonderful thing is they focus on the positive. So after this short commercial break, Michael and Christina Fisher will be with us.
Hi. Hi. Guys, man, it is great. So good to finally see you guys and meet you guys. Listen, we are so excited. Listen, that you took time out to hang out with us today. Listen, could you just say hello to our audience?
Oh, hello.
Hello, everybody. We're so happy to be here.
Yeah,
with the Mangums.
Yes, Team Mangum. Listen, we're just so really grateful that you guys took time out your schedule, because the amazing thing is that everybody has a blended family journey, a blended family story. Now, let me tell you something. When I saw your pictures, I got to be honest. I said, these folks too young to be tracking 9 wonderful young people. I said, I know they have their track shoes on a committed daily basis. But listen, we're really excited. You guys are going to bless our audience. You guys are going to give them gems that they need to take away so that their blended family can soar. And one of the things I like when my wife read your bio before we brought you guys on, that you guys focus on the positive, the advantages, or if I can use this vernacular, the solutions. Because I often tell people, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So we're going to ask a series of questions. And let me just let y'all know that you can be as honest and transparent as you choose to. or you choose not to say nothing. We can
We
pass
are,
on.
at this point, we are open books.
Yeah, we are.
There's,
Well,
you know,
sure.
That's the beauty of it, because we believe that when God gave us this platform, he wanted us to deal with people that are open books. I always say this, I said this in one of my books I wrote, that all blended families start from a loss, but they don't have to stay lost. It according to the navigators that's been put in front of their blended families, their bonus kids, their biological kids, their adopted kids, it doesn't matter. And we have to make a decision that we're going to cause a shift in the atmosphere. And so you guys reading your stuff, I said, man, I gotta get this team on. I told my wife when we kind of connected through Instagram, I said, I hope that they come on out of their busy schedule. Cause sometimes social media can be kind of intermittent. People can say, I don't know what, but you guys, we're just grateful. So I have the first question. And again, we welcome you guys to our show. And so this is questions for both of you guys. How did you both meet? It's a two-part. And how was your blended family formed? So give us the history of this wonderful connection.
Well, it's funny because there's actually two sides to this story, truthfully. But I mean, Michael and I knew each other. We honestly don't know that moment when we were introduced, but it was more of a business relationship, more networking as entrepreneurs and self-starters. And so we got introduced and we would just run into each other from time to time. I knew he was married and I was married, and it was just, I knew nothing about him other than he was an entrepreneur and he always gave me really good ideas. And so here I would, I'd run into him and I'd be like, hey, I've got a question. I'm really glad I ran into you. I've got a question about this thing. And he would help me out. And so we move on with our lives. And then it comes to one point where walking into the same gym at the same time in the morning, and I'm about ready to go teach a class, and he's like, oh man, I just got done with the conference. I've got some ideas for you. And I was like, that's great, but I've got a class I have to teach. And so then anyways, after that, we start talking about business, and come to find out that we're both single in that moment by a conversation about being a single mom. And I said, oh, well, I'm not. He's like, that doesn't apply to you. And I said, well, actually, now it does.
That business meeting ended really quick. Let me tell you, like, I might not be the smartest man, but like, I knew when to end the business meeting, and that was the perfect time.
I know that's the truth. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So it was every day ever since then, really. But his story is a little different than mine.
You told him you were single, and then what happened?
Well, he said, he's like, there was this lady there and she made a business out of, she was a single mom, really struggling, just was being vulnerable. He's like, but that's not what you need because you're not a single mom. You got to find something different for you. And I was like, well, actually, now I am a single mom. And he's like, what? So
pump the brakes, as you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we knew each other for, 4 or 5 years before that. And both of us, struggling in different degrees with our own marriages and never having any idea. Yeah. And I remember early on just really seeing something so great in her and almost like giving me hope, like, okay, I know like wonderful, like how wonderful someone can be, and that feeling and that energy, and then, going home and trying to create that in my own marriage and my own life. And then for both of us, those things just didn't work out, exactly how we planned. And so, boy, when we both realized that we had both been divorced since the year or whatever it had been since we've even bumped into each other, that relationship started moving really fast. Yeah. And, you really hit it on the head, like maybe different words, but, you said, every blended family is created out of loss. We say something similar. Every blended family is created out of pain. Yeah. And that was certainly the case. Pain and loss accompanies everything. It's something, it doesn't matter if it's death, it doesn't matter if it's divorce, it doesn't matter if one biological parent left at some point, whether they were married or not. There is loss and pain accompanied with all of it. And I think we really realized that, we suffer, but oftentimes, you know, through our own suffering, we forget that we're not alone in that suffering.
Yeah.
And, you know, our kids, you know, they suffered in different degrees and different things. And really, so out of that suffering, that's how our blended family was really formed.
Wow. That is really amazing. I'm sitting over here thinking and listening to you both. And one of the things that my wife and I realized, and our audience knows, but you guys don't know, I'm a third generation blended family, Stefan. I've been in this thing for a few months.
Yeah.
You know, but what I realized is that out of our stories, out of our pain, out of our loss, out of the disconnection, we can formulate something beautiful, something encouraging, something truly powerful. And what you guys had just said, even in the first question, demonstrates to our audience. And we often tell our audience that you should never be ashamed when there's a pivot in your life. You may not understand why the pivoting is taking place, but try to grab the moment. My wife, Dr. Michelle, and I, we live in the moments within Blended Families. I think we've been doing this about, talking about and coaching about it, probably about 15 years now, probably a little longer than that. And from all walks of life, from all ethics and all, you know, races, we're never been caught up in stuff like that. We're connected. You and I are connected because we're in a blended family. I mean, people have different words for blended families, and that's okay. But the bottom line is that what we try to drive is that you can turn it around. We truly believe that with the right components, whether it's counseling, whether it's talking to somebody that can truly give you the right words or the right encouragement or the right tools, because what we realize is that the people that are connected to us, they're still dealing with, I'm using you guys, but they're still dealing with the pain and the loss. And we have to make sure as adults, and I tell adults, make sure you don't perpetuate that pain or that loss through divorce or death. It's real, but we have to be a component and say, you know what? No longer. My grandmother used to say, baby, you gotta say when enough is enough, you know, and you have to say that in all walks of life. So my wife is I'm gonna quit jibber jabbing.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
We both were previously married as well.
We both went through the divorce process too. And one day offline we gonna talk about
so my husband, well, we did 2 blending books, but then my husband did Life After Divorce, the rebuilding process.
Yes.
So
I share with people, and don't forget, Ron, don't forget your Mike, don't forget your point. But in that book, and I often tell people, why would you write a book like that? You know, divorce is so traumatic. Divorce is so, I said, you're right. All of those things you're saying, you're correct. But I say, I wrote this book because there's some people that are still landing in divorce after the divorce, mentally, emotionally, psychologically. They have not celebrated life. And I don't know why people get divorced. I really don't want to know why you got divorced. It happens. My goal for me, when you come to me, I'm not gonna stay while you got divorced. Let's find out how to get you better. And that book talks about how to celebrate life, not celebrate the components that cause the divorce, because they can be different things. But now that you are divorced, you need to live again. Now that you are divorced, you need to believe. In one chapter of the book, talk about you need to learn how to love again. First of all, love yourself, number one. Then, because if you don't love yourself, then you can't deposit love in somebody else, you know? And so we talk about that. We talk about, celebrating yourself, you know, picking the right team to be on your side. Talk about that in my book. You know, because you got to pick the right people. When you go through divorce, you can't just go to the person that, why you got divorced, it was your fault, it was his fault. No. Pick the right team that will be, if you will, your cheerleader. Not, again, my wife and I, we don't advocate divorce, but I'm clear enough. I've been living long enough to know that divorce happens.
Yeah.
You can be in any space in life. It will happen. So.
Oh man, there's so much to unpack in everything that you just said. Oh man. So like, you know, there's so much divisiveness in the world, dividing people against people, and
Yes.
the real result, regardless of beliefs or skin color or whatever it is, what has really happened more than ever in history is we all feel alone. Everyone feels alone in their own pain and their own suffering, and left to suffer, thinking that they're the only ones, thinking that there's something wrong with them, that there's something wrong with me and nobody else is feeling this way or experiencing things in this way. And blended families are hard, and oh man, like nobody, not enough people are talking about it, and so like I'm horrible. I just stink as a person. I'm not good enough. They're not good enough. My kids aren't good enough, or whatever it might be. We all suffer alone, and it just doesn't have to be that way. So many people, we have these experiences of loss, and in order to try and cope with it, we mistake processing and dealing with it with burying it. And we bury these emotions, and we bury these feelings, and we bury all these things. And we think, oh, just because it's not visible right now, that means I'm over it.
Yeah.
It's ready to move on and ready to, and then but all those emotions that are not yet processed, that are buried, all of a sudden we get in a new relationship, and everything's good. It's honeymoon phase. And we start blending families, and then something happens. A kid talks back, or a kid doesn't do what they're supposed to, or you and your wife get in, and all of a sudden, little dirt comes off of those old experiences and those old emotions, and this old program that we have not dealt with, that we have not put in the trash, it comes up and starts running again.
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden, we don't even know why we're fighting. And all I know is I'm feeling something, and I'm not happy about it. And I don't want it to be my fault. I want it to be her fault. I want it to be their fault. I want it to be, whatever. And it's not unique. And I think because not enough people are talking about it, and really normalizing these challenges and normalizing how all this happens, I think everybody just feels alone.
Let me say this, and that's why my wife and I wrote our second Blended Family book, straight talk about the blended family, keeping it 100, because you said so many powerful things, because of our humanity, because of humanity, we rather hide stuff than deal with stuff. But that's the way we're programmed. That's the way we have been programmed by societal norms, by family environments, is that you don't speak on the things that you've been broken in. You really don't get it better, because you feel that, let me put this in closet number 2 of my heart, closet number 3 of my kidneys, closet number 3 of the back of my mind. So we suppress this. And when I was a kid, and I'm giving my age a little bit, we had this thing called Jack in the Box, and you start turning that thing and something pops up. That little whatever it is gonna pop up, and so my point I'm making is that whatever emotions that you really didn't deal with, when something takes place, it pops up. And then you can't get it back in, because it has to take its course. And sometimes the course can be like a tsunami, or internal tsunami, or external tsunami. And here's what I often tell people: make sure that that your children are not casualties, but are champions. And I talk about that a lot of times, because a lot of us have been in the blended family mixture, because we do what you just said, Mike, we suppress it, and it pops up. The new wife or the new husband. And most of them, let me be honest, because they haven't seen you in that mode, and they're like,
yeah,
wow, I did not see that coming. And nothing is more challenging for humanity, our blended family parent, our husband and wife, is to get blindsided with an emotion that you never processed until maybe your biological son or daughter said something or didn't do something, and then it pops up. Where do we go from there? So what you're saying, yes, Christine.
And another thing I wanted to just add on, people don't realize, like when you said, oh, we fall in love, we lovey-dovey, we want to get married, and then we get married, and then the kids start speaking up. All kids want their parents to be together, their biological parents. They want their biological parents to be together. They don't care what kind of atmosphere it is. They don't care about any of that. They just know, I want my mom and dad together. Yeah. So it's important to have these discussions. Communication is so huge. It's huge in any family, but especially the blended family. It's important just to tell the kids, listen, things didn't work out with me and your mom or me and your dad, and eventually they're going to have somebody else too, Yeah. And, just make sure they meet when you start getting serious though. We've had a couple people, we did a couple seminars, and we had, we always do Q&A afterwards. And there was a young lady, and she was getting married in a month, and her daughter hadn't met her fiance. And we were like, oh, please. I
was shaking, and I was a facilitator.
She said, when's a good time for me to introduce them? We were like, the moment y'all knew y'all were getting serious, that's when you had.
Because it has to be a cultivation period. And that's another thing we teach when blended families are getting together. Understand there must be a cultivation period. Because yes, kids are resilient, but when you blindside them with somebody that they haven't cultivated a relationship with, and a lot of times it's the biological mom, and the biological mom is trying to get her son or daughter to connect with the bonus dad or the bonus mom. And there's such a reluctancy, is because we did not cultivate a healthy relationship before they just, because kids, we were like kids. We don't like, well, I'm not gonna say, let me not say everybody is like that. I don't like for you to throw me in the fire all the time. It's okay to throw me in the fire, but but don't throw me in there every day. Sooner or later, I'm gonna get burnt up. Yeah, because sometimes life throws us in the fire, and because we have a certain level of maturity and understanding, we can kind of navigate. But if you get thrown in the fire every day, I heard something on the back. Mike said this. I talk a lot, but I listen. Mike said the other, his previous situation, he was dealing with some stressors. And I don't know, I wasn't there with you, but I believe you was in the fire sometime when you didn't even expect. You came home and whoop, there go the fire, there go the blaze. Call 911 and get the fire department because you're on fire. I've been
zero to hot really quick.
So, anything you want to add, Chris?
Well, yeah, back to what Dr. Michelle was talking about with the kids and introducing. That's one of the things that they say. Oh, wait. When you're starting to get serious, wait a certain time before you introduce. The day that we started, we met on that day. He asked me on a date shortly after that for 3 weeks. And I'm like, really, 3 weeks? You're going to ask me on a date for 3 weeks from now? And exchange numbers. I know. I was like, that's way too long. Are you kidding me? Anyways. And so within that time frame, we start texting, and then we went to lunch and dinner and so forth. But we knew instantly that we were a power couple. We knew that what we had could be so amazing. But when you do the math and we have 9 kids, you can't just ignore the happiness of your 9 children. You can't ignore what that's going to be like. And so
good. That's very good, Christina.
Look at this woman. I did not want to fall in love with such a beautiful and wonderful woman, and just to find out and have that torn from me because something wasn't working culturally with our family, or yet this wasn't that this part of it wasn't going to work. And we were, one of our first text messages as we were talking, we talked about, okay, well, when can we go on a first date? And this was a Monday, and well, how about Wednesday? And I text back, I'm like, I'm pretty sure we can take over the world by Wednesday. We need to move this date up. And that's just how it's been. So we go on our first date, and we just we knew. We didn't know what this was going to be, but we didn't know if it was going to work, but we knew that if it did work, it was going to be something really special. And so, all the books and things like that, they say, oh, well, wait, and, kids in and out. And I think we forget how much of an expert we really are. If we really let ourselves be free, if we really listen to that guiding force guiding us and prompting us and telling us what to do, we can't let a book distract us from that, take that from us when we're being told, when we really feel this is the right decision.
Yeah, definitely.
And for us, that was, we needed to introduce our kids quickly. And that was right.
That's beautiful. Listen, excuse me, Mike, I don't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no.
We've heard so many stories. I'm a firm believer in this. I don't know if I pastor a church. I founded a church, non-denominational church, family worship center, a place where families can imagine, probably 3.5 years ago. And there was a lot of people they said, man, why you leaving the comfort zone of this? We were in a huge denomination, huge churches all over the world. And they, I was kind of like associate minister, whatever the case. And, things were happening for us. My wife and I, she was doing great things with women ministry, youth ministry. And they was like, you don't, no. But the reason why I make this statement about that, this is not about my church or our church. It's about understanding the movement of your heart and the voice that's listening to you. And it goes against the books and the so-called experts. I've learned about so-called experts. Well, they don't live where you live.
We were talking about this earlier, and if you don't have to read very far in the scriptures. You don't have to read very far in the Bible to know that God asks people to do crazy things, weird things, the norm things, right? You get kicked out of a city and he says, you go back. You go where? Go back there? And so it's, and we forget that sometimes. And we're so used to going with the norm and going with what's safe because we don't want to be hurt again. We want to, it's easier to listen to that than to risk being wrong about something that's important and what comes from that.
No, that's powerful. Christine, you want to add something? Because let me tell you something. I've been around wives. My wife going to add something, but I want Christine. I've been around wives long enough to know that they have blended family wives. Let me make it a lot more clear. That they have an intuitiveness inside of them. And sometimes, I'm not saying that they give all the reverence to their husband or whatever, but sometimes they don't drop stuff that they need to drop. Because there's some stuff, Christine, there's some stuff, Christine, that may be not the word you would use, but that's the word I'm using. Because see, you're helping me and you're helping women and men that are in a blended family.
Absolutely.
See, the women don't just help the women help the men don't just help the men help the women in this blended family. If we don't drop stuff and share stuff that's on the inside of us, then we're going to walk away missing that valuable ingredient. I tell people, when my mom bake a cake, I can tell that she put all the right ingredients in. And when my sister bake a cake, I can tell she missed some ingredients. So don't miss the ingredients because I got both hands open.
Cook for us.
All right. Well, back to the kids. And so just to put things into perspective, he has 6 children and I have 3.
Okay.
And so my 2 oldest daughters were older. Basically, I'm the older one, truthfully, and basically taking care of themselves. And one was graduating high school when we met, and she was ready to just move out of the house. And so I had one, she was 9, I think, at the time. And we went to the park, we had a picnic, and we just let the kids play and interact. And we played soccer and we had chalk, and it was a gorgeous spring evening.
Wow.
I had a really wonderful time. And when we got into the car, because I just had my one daughter to his 6 kids, And she gets in the car and she says, Mom, we need to hang out with them a lot more.
Wow.
And I knew, yeah, like I get goosebumps talking about it, because we are very blessed that our children love each other, but we have been intentional in how we've created that as well. And so the fact that when our kids are together, it is this beautiful, fun, we dance, we play, people look at us and think, who is that crazy family in the big black van? We hear the music and the lasers going, that's our family.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we don't really care what the neighbors think or what,
like that's right.
We're the Fishers and we are going to have a good time. And so we created this, but as far as being a stepmom of 6 kids, and that was, and still is a challenge. And having reverence for my husband, because with his situation, it's so toxic on the other side that, we have, and the custodies are different. So, but the 4 that are with their mother 60% of the time, and then they're with us for a few days. And it's almost like this undoing of behavior and thought, and he's the bad guy always. And so, it's helping them understand it's so hard for me to be the better person and to not talk bad about their mom ever, as hard as that is. There'll be times when I just have to just pull myself away and take a few breaths and be like, okay, that's not the right thing to say. The instinctive emotions that come up when I see them hurting, when I see them hurting because of things that have been said over there, or the things that they feel about their father, like it hurts. And so I just have to remove myself and rethink it and be like, okay, I can go back and provide maybe a different perspective, but not in a derogatory way and not in a way that makes them feel like I don't like their mother. There has to be this love. And over time, my stepkids, as much as I don't like to call them my stepkids other than just my kids, we have a good relationship of trust, and they feel like they can come talk to me about certain things because they know that it's safe, if that makes sense.
No.
That is awesome. One of the chapters is not to badmouth each other.
And blending to make it ingredients for a successful blended family. We talk about that in that book, or I talk about it in that book. And I talk about it because, Mike, I've been where you've been, man. Boy, when you talk about me being the bad guy, man, that guy right there.
But you know what? We sat the kids down and we had a talk with them, and we told them it's okay for you to love
both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. On both sides. It's okay for you to love both. At some point in time, people have to move on. Just keep praying for her. Y'all know keep praying for her, because she's still holding on to what she thinks should be. And it's not happening.
And
it's not going to be ever again.
Yeah, but let me
add
this.
So yes.
Let me add this. We're in the right space right now.
Oh, and just for a moment before I forget.
Yeah, go ahead.
Package deal. This is another point too, when people don't want to introduce their kids. You're a package deal. How are you not introducing your kids when you're a package deal? Like, when somebody comes in your life, you can't. And we've even had people that didn't say they even had children until they got serious. And I'm telling you, it takes everything in us, especially if we're doing a conference of some sort, or somebody brings us in to be the speakers. It takes everything in us to not say, what, are you crazy? You have to make these introductions. You can't just spring people on, So
it is a package deal. Like one of the greatest disservices I could ever do to my children is to withhold everything that my wonderful wife is. To have her create a culture and environment where she's not allowed to parent, that she's not allowed to have input, that she's not allowed. That's one of her greatest services to my children, is the love that she gives as a parent. That's what I saw in her. That's why I married her. And there's so many books and so many families that say, oh no, I parent my kids, I'll stay in my lane and you stay in your lane. And you know, our kids, they see it differently.
Yeah, they do.
They see it differently. They see love in this lane.
Yeah.
And they're standing over here in this lane and they don't see any love coming over there.
Yeah.
And even though we're not perfect, our imperfect parenting is still love.
Yes.
As imperfect as it is, we show up the best that we can with love, and they see that, and man, he doesn't care about me, she doesn't care about me, and because we're withholding who we are, we're withholding our love. We're gonna say.
Go ahead, Christina.
Yeah.
Well, you know, let me say this too.
Christina, were you going to say something?
Oh no, go ahead. You're good.
Okay. So one of the things I want to say, as I was listening to you both with the process of dealing with the other side of the house or the other side of the kids, maybe the kid's mom and the dad. And I had this conversation with the other side of a family that was, I guess they were bitter. They was upset because the marriage ended, the relationship ended. But I say this in my book about life after divorce, the rebuilding process. I said, you know what? The marriage ended before it ended.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship ended before it ended. What are you going to do about it? And I often tell people too that we have to take the high road. I said this, and let me tell you something, Christina, you have taken the high road. The high road is not for the faint of heart.
Absolutely.
I tell people in the blended family, taking the high road is not for the faint of heart. Because everything is coming at you, your kids, whether they're your bonus kids or their biological kids on either side, they have to see the very best of you to the very best of your ability. Now, let me just keep it 100 so the audience know. Sometimes you're going to be frustrated with the other parent because the other parent is spewing out things that are poison, that are parasitical, that's not building the kids, but you're trying to keep a wall. Because there's a book I read called Setting Up Alliances. And unfortunately, the divorced parent that's still upset set up the alliances with their kids to be against the new mom or the new dad. And I said, that's a quick way to bring your kids into an emotional and psychological path of not understanding the value of connecting with the new mom and the new dad. But the last thing I'll say, and I applaud you both. I applaud you too, Christina,
Yes.
because guess what? Love. I read somewhere, love covers a multitude of sins. When you have love will cause the light to switch on, the light to switch off. But when kids see the authenticness of love, that's going to draw them. The last thing I will say, I've been through this as a divorced dad with 4 kids that were biological. 2 were biological, 2 were non-biological. My biological kids, especially our daughter, caught on to it and says, you know what? My dad is none of those things that you said.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was none of those things that you said. Kids are very smart. And sooner or later, that bulb is going to click on and they're going to sit back and take inventory. I said, no, the things that you said about Miss Christina, whatever they call you, was inaccurate. And I allow you to pull me into your brokenness for the wrong reason. Now I'm old enough, Mom.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to no longer be a part of what you're doing. And as a matter of fact, by the way, Mom, and I'm playing a role here. By the way, I love my dad. I love Miss Christina because they're awesome people. And see, sometimes a divorced parent don't want to hear the truth.
Yeah.
But those kids,
It's coming.
stick around. I've seen it. Those kids going to tell the unadulterated truth. And hopefully maturity will set in with the parent that's still carrying on stuff that's not healthy, going to really get it. But I'm glad that you guys are in your black van and you put it in gear, emotional, psychological, and y'all driving on down love lane. Okay, do your thing. We got it. We having love over here. We're having a party. We're doing things. And so when they get back, because kids don't forget.
Yeah, I think people don't really realize when they're in the moment, when they're in that space, when they're having those interactions with their kids, it's so hard to detach. But just, I mean, if your audience, if everybody could just like take, a 30,000 foot view and you're on top of this scene and you're watching all this stuff play out. When our children, when they look in the mirror, they see their parents, their biological parents. They see that reflection in themselves. And it's the things about their parents, the things that they love the most about themselves, they see their parents in those things.
Yeah.
The things that they hate the most about themselves, they see their parents. And these imperfections and things like that. And so at any time when we give in to the temptation to talk bad about another parent, we don't realize what that does to those children. Even when they say, "Oh, I hate this about my dad. I hate that he gets angry," but they hate that they get angry. And so when that biological parent starts speaking to that thing about that parent, it literally affects them because that parent is literally talking badly about that child. That's how it's received.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's where we
agree.
We have enough problems with depression and anxiety and self-image issues and things like that. And boy, this just adds fuel to that fire in how our children perceive themselves. But it happens so sneakily. It sneaks up. You think you're just talking about that parent. You just think you're talking about them to try to build yourself up or whatever. No, you are talking poorly directly about that child and the things that they see in themselves, the things that they hate.
That's good, man. That is
already. And it destroys them. They are the ultimate collateral damage of all of it.
Yeah. No, that
Absolutely.
man, let me tell you something. And we have some questions, but man, you guys been dropping so many nuggets on our audience. And my
Don't worry about it.
Don't
We
worry about the
finish.
question. No.
Listen, we let the Lord flow how he gonna flow. We
can always do a part two. You can say, hey, you just stick with us and we'll air the next one in a few weeks. Who knows?
Listen.
We'll have to do another show.
We'll do a part two. Listen, we're okay with that.
So we're okay with that.
I just think that, Mike and Christina, you guys have laid out so many valuable seeds of life. I'm big on planting seeds of life, not seeds of death. And we have to, as bonus parents and biological parents and blended families, we must understand that we become the coaches for our children, whether they're biological or whether they're bonus of life. And I think that's the thing that we haven't educated ourselves about ourselves to understand that we've been put in this place. I believe blended families have been put in a place to do something so phenomenal, so incredible with themselves, with their children, that's connected with the even the in-loves or the in-laws, because sometimes they go from in-laws to in-love. It depends on what transition you in. But I think that the reality is this, I say this to a lot of people, probably 10 years ago, the blended family was a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Pew Research put out something that I put in one of my books, I don't remember now, but they talked about the blended family, how it was shifting because the societal norms of families was shifting because women was going back to work. There was a tremendous amount of divorce. When you go back to the 50s and 60s, you realize that when women started working, their roles were changed and they were no longer stay-at-home moms. They start making their money, start helping the house out. And unfortunately, a lot of the husbands, based on their environmental bringing, got upset and divorces started taking place. And so that's when you start having the blended family to rise. In my book, I talk about 3 influences of blended family: death, divorce, and having a child of wedlock. That's not the only influences. We know that. But those are the 3 influences that I've targeted on because I see it. I see divorce, unfortunately, a spouse dies, and then remarriage, And so, but then you have the children. And the thing about what you guys have done with your 9 wonderful, wonderful young people is that, man, you have brought them to a semblance of understanding how valuable they are. And that's what I wanted to get to. Mike and Christina, you guys are giving them these valuable internal tools to let them know you have a great deal of wealth and worth despite what you're dealing with. And so the true measurement of what your kids are going to be, the younger ones and even the older ones, is that what they've been through, and they can come and sponge on you guys that will give them an elevated love, an elevated perspective of themselves, an elevated perspective of your blended family. And that's one of the things my wife and I, we strive for. Let's level up, let's elevate from the things that are not healthy, the things that are not good, or the things that are toxic. Because you can, but you have to cause a switch, I think, in your mental capacity and your emotional. So you know what? Okay, that's going over there. But when they come over here, total different culture. And we're going to let that live. We're going to let that be a part of what we're doing. And so we're going to get to this question. Let me drop down to 3. Did you do 2?
No.
Okay, do 2, sweetheart. I'm sorry.
All right, the next question.
I'm sorry, Sugar.
So did you guys get premarital counseling? If so, how important is it?
Well, not together. We did not.
Okay.
So in our past marriages, we both had counseling, and that obviously didn't end up well. But but at the same time, that was already almost done, and we had a chance, because both of us in our marriages were feeling like we were the problem. So we had to work through all of that, and then you're like, okay, wait, it can't just be a one-way thing here.
Oh.
And so we had done a lot of that dirty work in our past marriage, and then now we're to a place where we have a little more understanding, a little more freedom, and then we get together, and it was this like a universe creation of the two of us getting together, right? But we are both Leos, if that makes any difference to you. We're high energy go-getters, and we just know that you have to be constantly self-improving. You can't just settle with where you are. And so just moving forward and looking for advice, looking for blended family resources. And when we got into that space where we were going, oh my goodness, most of it's toxic. If you go into some social media sites, it's just like, oh my goodness. Yeah.
It's just validation of the things that you already believe, like people searching out things to confirm the decisions that they've already made, even if those decisions aren't the right ones. They just want that validation. And so the people that chime in, all they chime in about are the things that they want to validate about themselves, about their own story. And so they insert themselves into somebody else's story and give them advice. They have no business doing anything like that. And so,
right.
You know,
I've seen them. Woo.
Yeah, I know. They are toxic and horrible. You know, you get online and you know, even looking at the blogs, it's like, oh well, there's things wrong with this about blended families, and here's why it's hard. Here's why it's hard. And you're like, I know why it's hard. Like, I see that. It's like walking into the emergency room with a gunshot wound, and the doctor says, yep, it's a gunshot wound. I know what it is.
Yes.
Like, I want you to fix it. That's why I'm here. Like, and so there's just, it isn't enough of that. And the positive, nothing really saying that, you know what, this is hard, but it can work. And I mean, it's difficult. You know, so no real counseling other than, you know, I think the biggest fight I think we had in the beginning, the biggest fights, or I wouldn't even say fights, but where she would say one thing and I would say another thing, they'd be opposed, is whose fault it was. Right. Except for we were fighting about me saying it's my fault and she's saying it's her fault. No, it's my fault, and she's saying no, it's my fault. And because we had gotten to that place in
and that's beautiful.
Looking for the things that we could improve about the situation and ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And I guess when we talk about premarital counseling, there's a lot of people that haven't had any experience. They're not really mature. And I don't want to harp on, but I am going to say this, that there's a lot of younger people out here. And I'm not saying you're not mature because you're young, I'm saying you're not mature because of the things that you've dealt with in life. See, there's only some things we're going to learn through life events. I don't care how much education you got formerly. It's some things you only learn through life events. I guess the reason that helps my wife and I to be so adept and aware and flexible is because we've dealt with things in our lives. You know, I spent 30 years and I've been in the blended family for over 3 decades. You know, my wife been in there for over 2 decades. So we got 50 years. If you add us to, we got 50 years of dealing with a blended family scenario. So we know a little bit. I don't know now. I tell people I don't want to know everything because that's too much stress.
Right.
I don't want to know everything because it's too much stress, you know. But I really believe that when we talk about premarital counseling, there's a lot of people that will say that it's hard, but they don't want to do anything to fix themselves.
Yes.
So maybe they want to, and so when we tell them, maybe you need a pastor or you need a counselor. We're Christian counselors, licensed, certified, and counselors and psychologists. But we talk real talk with them. Because yes, I went to school for this, but let me talk real talk.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. No, you go.
I was just going to say, so we actually call that truth triggers. That if somebody speaks the truth to you and you instantly get defensive, like, whoa, you don't know me, there's truth behind that and you need to work through that. And most people are too afraid and too embarrassed or too, I don't know if the word
Men especially.
Yeah, I don't know if it's superficial, but yeah, it's that truth trigger where you're just like, whoa, all your walls go up and you're like, nope, I'm going to fire you. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm never going to come back to you. You don't know what you're talking about. A friend or anybody that's close to you speaks the truth.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because everybody in their lives that they surround themselves. Yeah. Everybody in their lives that they surround themselves with, they surround to confirm their reality. And if you're not going to confirm my reality, I don't want any party. I don't want to hear from you. Nope. You're fired. You're at it. We're not hanging out anymore. And just to keep themselves safe in the reality that they've created, because they don't want that reality to come crashing down. You know, I wrestled in high school and college, and all through my wrestling, up until I think I was a junior in high school, I was surrounded by coaches and people, not that they weren't doing the best that they could, but everybody kind of told me what I wanted to hear. It was the ref's fault. It was this fault. It was, it should have gone this way. This should have happened. This should have happened. And the truth was I wasn't getting any better. And then I flew to Texas and a buddy said, hey, why don't you come with me? My uncle's a coach, and went down there. And man, I hated that guy. I never wanted to go back there again because he just told me how bad I was. Oh, you're bad at this and you're bad at this and you're bad at this. And then, so I went back after 2 weeks. I went back home. I'm never going there again. And so I started wrestling again. I'm like, oh my gosh, well, the stuff he's saying, that's working. And I think he was right. And that really started and began that journey of like really listening to those things that are wrong about me, finding the truth in that. Not everything. We don't have to accept everything that everybody tells us.
Exactly.
We don't have to accept that.
Absolutely.
But to consider the truth of it is super important. We might live in a culture where saying one thing is appropriate but for another culture it's inappropriate. Like my son one day, he was coming home, he was 3rd grade, and he coming home on the bus, and I get a call after the bus dropped him off, and somebody, it was this little girl on the other line who says, hey, is this Isaac's dad? And I was like, well, yeah. And she said, well, Isaac, he was talking about inappropriate things on the bus. And I was like, oh man, that's not good. No, it's not. Like, what was he talking about? Well, he was talking about butts, girl butts. And I had to try to hold back my laughter. I'm thinking on the level of inappropriateness, this is right. And I could have
listen, come on, you can go no. Woo!
Yeah,
go to the 21st century and see what 3rd graders are talking about now.
Yeah, right.
And so, but then I was like, oh well, boy, I'm gonna have to do something about that. And so I went to my son and again trying to hold back laughter and be serious about this. And I was like, hey, I just got a call and somebody was saying you were talking about inappropriate things. Is that true? He's like, yeah. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, but so like, and he was like, I was like, okay, well, is that appropriate? And no, it wasn't appropriate. Okay. And so I was like, all right, well, you need to go over there and apologize to her dad. And so he did. And I got thinking about it. I was like, man, is this inappropriate?
Yeah.
Well, to me, the answer is no.
Right.
Truth, looking at that and saying, where is the truth in this? The truth is it was inappropriate for her.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we do that enough in the things. Is just weigh and consider what part of this is true and what part of this is not. And most of the time we just reject it. We just, or we accept even truth that we shouldn't be accepting. And it's just, oh man, there's
So much.
Yeah, so
that
much.
we
We
can
could
talk
go on
about.
forever.
No, but you know what? I think, man, we're gonna get ready to, we're gonna wrap it up, but we're gonna have you guys back on because we recognize that you guys have so much value, truth. One of the things I've realized, one of the biggest things that can cause the things to change, because change is the only thing that's constant, is that we're honest and self-evaluate ourselves. And I think we have to be around people that calls those things truth about us. And we have to be humble enough to say, you know what, Mike was right, or Michael and Christina was right. And say, you know what, I'm gonna grow by that. But we have to get to that space of maturity. And I often tell people that you want your kids to be mature, but you're not mature.
Yeah.
You're not willing to say to your kids, listen, you know, son, I blew it today. I really missed it. You know, I really took the wrong angle in responding to what took place, you know? And so I've done that personally, even with our kids, because what I realized is that kids want their parents, they look at their parents as being perfect. And even when things go where it's not perfect, they don't understand why it didn't go that way. Because my dad is a perfect dad. But when kids are able to understand, if you make a mistake, and we're gonna pray, but when you make a mistake, I believe that one of the things that allow your kids to hold closer to you is that you tell your truth. Absolutely. You know, that trigger, you know, and say, you know what, I really made a mistake, you know, and don't be ashamed of it. And it takes a lot. And you said this earlier, Michael, my biggest challenge when I counsel with people and counsel with individuals is men. Their egos are so thick, you know, in the blended family that they are always right, you know. And I tell people, you're not always right. Why you think there was a right and a wrong put in the world? We can't always be right. Even though you may think you're right, there's sometimes you're not right, but how you respond to it when you're wrong. See, I tell people all the time, make sure in the blended family that you're responding to your new wife or your new husband and your new children with the very right motivation that you can be. And so honesty has to be the thrust of why you're in this relationship, you know. And so, man, we're gonna get back together because there's some things you guys said. I mean, that's why I don't comment on people on Facebook, man, because I was in a couple of Facebook groups for blended families, and I did it for a friend, and I was trying to give them a level up of positiveness, and man, they kept going on. I said, you know, I told my wife, I said, I'm done, because all they want to do is scratch and claw and all this stuff, and they don't want solutions. Because I tell you something, when people don't get good stuff from you and Christina or my wife and I, and you don't do nothing about it, you're not executing, you don't really want to get better. Come on.
Yeah.
You enjoy the toxicity, you enjoy the craziness. So guess
Do
what?
we have enough time for one more comment?
Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. Man, one of the greatest things I did for myself, my family, our relationship, was to just get better at saying I'm not okay. To get more in tune with what the things are that trigger me, and when, especially as men, you know, women they do it also and a little bit different. I'm fine. Men, we stay silent, but when we're not silent, like for me and for so many others, we get mad, and really we're mad at ourselves when something happens. My number one thing is I just don't feel like I'm a good enough dad. like I'm not a good enough husband. And that manifests itself in different ways. And sometimes as far as the events happen in different ways, but often manifests in impatience and anger. And if our family, if our spouse doesn't have any other frame of reference or anything else to put to anger, then she's thinking there's something that she's done, or I'm just mean. And by being vulnerable and by saying, gosh, when some of these things happen, I just feel like I'm not showing up enough as a dad, and I'm not a good enough dad. And here's some times. And so all of a sudden I start getting impatient and upset. And then she has the humility and patience with me enough to see me, to see what's really going on, and sometimes just straight up says it, straight talk, like, hey, are you not feeling good enough right now? Like, are you a little triggered about something that's been happening? Is that why you're acting like this? And oh man, like she sees me, and but that will never happen. That will never happen unless we're honest about how we're feeling and why we're feeling that way.
Yes. That is an excellent point. And I know that some husband heard that and that triggered him. He's like, oh,
Yeah, Michael just dropped it on. He just dropped it. Boom.
For some reason, people think that they're the only ones going through certain things, but then when they hear it from somebody else, they realize, oh, I'm not the only one,
Just because we're strong, that doesn't mean that we're not hurting.
Absolutely.
Because we're strong, it does not mean we're not hurting inside.
Absolutely.
Wow. This has been amazing. You guys are amazing. I am so grateful that we connected today. Listen, audience, Michael and Christina are going to tell you real quick how to reach out to them, because Blended Family Crusaders, you guys need to tap into them. They have so much richness. Get outside, get out of your own way. I'm telling you, audience, get out your own way. Man, dad, mom, woman, get out your own way and allow the Crusaders, the Blended Family Crusaders, to give you. So tell us how audience can reach out to you guys through social media outlets.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we are found as Blended Family Crusaders on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and
blendedfamilycrusaders.com. Yeah, right now we're actually doing a thing. Just name an email and just state your greatest challenge in your blended family and press submit, and it'll come right to us. We'll do some custom video, some custom training just for you, send it to you, and just give that to you as a gift. No charge, no nothing. We just want to give back and help people.
Wow. Listen, guys,
That's
we have
amazing.
really enjoyed you guys. I know our audience have been blessed. We're going to have a quick word of prayer, man, and we're going to go. Okay. Lord, we thank you for this amazing couple.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you for all of the things that they shared with our audience, with us today.
Yes.
God, whatever they're doing, continue to bless it, continue to strengthen their union, continue to strengthen their children, continue to strengthen just everything that they lay their hands on.
Yes.
Continue to use them to be that light that's in dark places within the Blended family. In the precious name of your son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Listen, guys, we enjoyed you. We are so excited. We're going to do this again. Listen,
absolutely.
Take care and be safe.
All right.
So much. It was a pleasure. It was an honor. Thank you so much.
So much for coming on the show. We appreciate it.